Here we go. Welcome everyone to the weekly water cooler chat where we talk about all things Livepeer. Today is a wonderful day ahead of us, and great to have you all joining us. We'll start with introductions, and we'll go through the regular chat as we always do. If you are in the audience, please go ahead and raise your hand if you want to come up and join us on stage, where you can introduce yourself and talk about all things Livepeer. Or you can just hang out in the audience and listen, which is cool as well. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'll start with introducing myself, and then we'll go down the list as we usually do. I am Titan. Been running the Titan Node Orchestrator since May of 2021. And my topic for today is about a bit about the Titan Node pool that I'm building. It's about so I'm building it in Python, and I'm wondering, how could I ask the pool transcoder if they want to run this on system startup? So like it'll run in the background, so you can just like transcode when your computer's on, and when you turn your computer off, you disconnect from the pool. And then B, whether that would actually be something you would theoretically want in a pool situation, like, or do you want people to like actually manually turn on their transcode every time they want to transcode, like in a pool situation? So my questions around that, and a bit about the pool development that I'm working on. So that is my topic, and I'll move on to the next person, which is Paul. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
All right, hiya guys, I'm Paul. I'm quite fresh here, so I don't really have a topic. Just came over here to listen, actually.
Very good. Appreciate to have you. I don't believe we've met, Paul, so great to have you, and welcome to the community. It's really, really great to have you. We'll move on.
Right.
Authority, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey guys, Authority Null. Been running my Orchestrator since November 2021. Don't really have a specific topic, although I would like to ask if anybody who's more in touch with Livepeer has any information on those outages we had. Maybe just some explanation. I don't know, information about them, because we haven't really heard anything about that. And I'm very curious what caused Livepeer, all the ingest nodes, to kind of fail a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm curious if anyone has any info on that. Great to have you, Authority. Thanks for coming back as always. Papa Bear, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Sure. I am Papa Bear, and I run the Solar Farm Orchestrator, which I started in July of last year. So coming up on a year here. I don't actually have a topic this week, although I'm sure I'll have comments on things that come up. But since I see he's in the audience, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Marco and say thank you for picking up the statistics for the payouts. You've gone above and beyond what I was doing, and I really appreciate being able to see all that info, and I think it's great. And not only is it just a good summary, but I like to be able to just kind of track it during the month. So thanks, Marco.
Very cool. And I've invited Marco up to speak. Obviously, the green hands are me inviting people up to speak. So, and the black hands are the ones of people asking to come up to speak. So, if you get confused, these are people I'm inviting up. They are not waiting to come up. So, I know that it's not very intuitive if you're watching this either in the chat or whatever, but. Very cool. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Papa Bear, as always. Vires, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey all, I'm running the Vires and Numeris Orchestrator transcoder. Started about 3+ years ago, and no topic from my side.
Just listening. Very good. Thank you so much for joining us, Vires. Ftkuhnsman, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hi guys, Joey here, Ftkuhnsman Node. No, particular topic today. Just listening in, and will contribute where I can. Would like to hear if how everybody's doing on the community node if you are using it. yeah, that's it for me today.
I'm sure I got lots of questions for you about the community ARB node, so we'll dive into that, I'm sure, as your topic, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us. Alex with Syrinx Node. Do you want to introduce yourself on a topic?
Sure. Yes, I'm Alex. I run Syrinx Node, and I'm a TPM at Livepeer. Yeah, since I'm back in the US, I'm eager to get caught up with where everyone is. And I'm most curious about Ftkuhnsman, his community Arbitrum node. I messed around a little bit with some Optane SSDs I had lying around this weekend, and got closer to the, I guess, latency numbers that Arbitrum seems to prefer. So that was kind of cool. So I'm curious how that's going. Yeah, and then otherwise just if how things are going. But yeah, that's about it.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us, Alex. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic? Mike, are you with us?
Yeah, I'll skip to the end. I'm got some background noise here.
All right, no worries. Evan, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
Hey guys, I'm Evan. I do analytics at Livepeer. I'm just listening today. I'm happy to be a part of the conversation.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Drake, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
What's up, guys? I lead product marketing here at Livepeer, and I am just a member of the conversation today. No specific topic.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry, I'm eating a little bit today, and I'm having a coffee, and shortly I will have my baby in the room with me. So please excuse any noise you might get in the background from me, from my microphone today. Mike, it doesn't matter. Background noise doesn't really matter. Why don't you introduce yourself, and if you have a topic, go ahead.
Hey guys, Mike, just running an orchestrator for several months here. Still getting my hands around all the stuff. I found a new dashboard in Discord, so I'm in matrix consume mode right now. But no topics for today. Just kind of listening, poking in.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're in the audience, I think I invited Frank up. I don't remember if he declined it. But anyway, if you're in the audience, please raise your hand. I'll invite you up to stage, and you can introduce yourself and a topic you might have. Otherwise, yeah, let's go through and have a bit of a conversation about Livepeer. What I'm going to do is I will, because we have a lot of people just listening, so what I'm really curious is about, just to get us going, I won't start on my topic, but I'd like to start on Ftkuhnsman and the community ARB node, because I think I have switched all my nodes over to the community node, and things are running really smoothly so far. So Ftkuhnsman, can you give us an update on like what you've been working on, what challenges you've been facing, and just an overall update as to how that's all going?
Yeah, so I as you know, just deployed a new version of this community ARB node. A lot of the things I did was just trying to fix stability issues. So in the initial kind of iteration, I was using just like one server with the ARB node sitting on it, and I had like a failover node ready, but I was using HA proxy to actually route all the requests to various nodes, and it was using like a round robin method, which Papa Bear pointed out actually creates a lot of noise in the logs, because if you make a request from one node and then your next request goes to a different node, they might not be completely synced to the same block height. So it actually produces an error message in the logs, which will not hurt the orchestrator, but it's just kind of messy. So I kind of wanted to fix that. And just in general, the resource usage of all the different components of this was kind of all over the place. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I kind of segregate each of these pieces out so they're using their own dedicated resources? So I kind of separated everything out to individual servers. So like the overall architecture now is there is a web server that hosts my website, right? And you'll see now I've incorporated like the API into my website, right? So you go there, it's behind Nginx, and you can create your API key, and then API requests are sent to that web server. And then I actually have another server which has a get node and arb node running. It also has proxy D running on it. So that's like the main routing point. So when all requests come in through the web server, they get sent to proxy D, which routes pretty much all of the requests to that local Arbitrum node. And then if for any reason that node fails, there is a secondary arb node on another server that it will route the request to instead. So it is technically all just running on a single arb node, but there is that failover piece if needed. And I just wanted to change everything up so that it could be more scalable. Because right now, I don't think having one node is going to be a problem for the amount of traffic that Livepeer is going to produce. But I needed to change up the architecture so that if I needed to add more web servers to handle requests, like it's more plug and play now. So I can scale without downtime.
That's very, very interesting. Do you have like, what are your costs associated with this? Because like, since I have I have 8 nodes, all pointing towards Ftkuhnsman's arb node. Obviously, I want to contribute to the costs of this of somehow. Like, what are your costs so far? Like, is there a point? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, total cost is about, I don't know, it's somewhere in like the $150 to $200 a month range. And that's just for all of the virtual servers that I have going. Obviously, if it needs to scale, that would increase with, traffic, right? Like if I find I need to put more nodes in place to handle the traffic, like it would go up, obviously. But I mean, right now there's really 4 servers that I'm using. I've got the main web server. I've got the arb node server that's running the proxy service and routing traffic. I've got a secondary arb node server, and then there is a web database server. So that again, if I need to spin up another web server, I'm using a common database between them. So like that was one of the issues I was trying to get around, because if I spin up multiple web servers, I'm like, well, how do I make sure the users are consistent across both? So I made a centralized database server specifically for that. So yeah, 4 servers. If it needs to scale, it can. And I am in the process of writing up the grant proposal right now, because I mean, ideally, I'm going to ask Livepeer to subsidize this, right? So that it's free to use for all orchestrators.
Please do, because I know Doug specifically asked that you please put up a grant because he thinks it's very valuable for the community.
Yeah, no, I'm going to. I've never done one of these grants though, and I would actually appreciate feedback on how much I should really be asking for, because obviously there's a monthly cost that I know about now, right, based on current infrastructure needs, that could go up if it needs to scale higher. There's also kind of like my time that I've put into developing it, and I'm going to have to continue to maintain it. So I don't know. I just welcome thoughts on that.
Has anyone here won a grant before, and what was their experience with like how much you should charge, I guess, or ask for?
Yeah, I mean, I went through the grant process and it was incredibly smooth. And I mean, it wasn't for anything on the developmental side, but I asked for what I thought I was worth, and I didn't lowball. And I don't think you should with Livepeer, because I think if what you're offering adds a lot of value to the network, they're happy to pay for it.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I don't intend on lowballing. I'm just thinking, all right, if I actually do need to scale up the architecture, I'm wondering if I could submit the grant proposal based on what it all is now, with the caveat that if I do have to incur more hardware costs, maybe some type of agreement that they would cover the additional cost. I don't know.
Yeah, you should ask. You should ask for that and see what they say, because the grant committee will be in touch with you after the fact. So you can
Mhm.
always give them more information and update them later. It's not like there's no point of communication, so you can talk to
Mhm.
them. But I would definitely put that in the grant. Say that your part of the cost is factored in for scaling the node.
Yeah, and the first grant, like proposal I'm doing now, I'm basically doing it for a year length of time. I'm like, this grant is for you to subsidize the node for 1 year. Obviously, if you want to continue to subsidize it after that point, like we'll work out how we do that. If another grant needs to be submitted, or if there can just be an agreement that period over period, whatever the total cost of just renting the hardware is for a year, like there'd be a commitment that they'll continue to provide that. I don't know.
Yeah, I so I got 3 grants, but they were all ended up just being in one basically. And the way I usually go about these things is kind of like that first principles thinking, like start with what would make you happy and satisfied to get up in the morning and work on this. Make sure that what you're doing is exciting, and you're getting rewarded or at least compensated enough that it's exciting to work on, because otherwise it becomes a pain, and you do less quality work and you start to resent it. So always start with like your happiest point, and then work backward from there. So for me, I did video tutorials, how-to videos. So these were how to stake, how to how to choose an orchestrator, these kinds of things. And I figured, from my understanding, grants or anyone that's giving funding, they always like details. The more details you can give, the better. Especially like, um, you know, checkpoints or like things that you can offer, deliverables. So for me, I just looked at it and went, okay, well, to make a 20-minute or 15-minute how-to video at the quality I want to make, it's going to take me 12 hours, right? So 12 hours of work to make a 15-minute video. And for me to wake up in the morning, I wanted to earn $100 per hour for video editing and video stuff, right? So I valued my time at $100 an hour. I'm happy to spend $100 an hour sitting by my computer doing something that I find interesting. And so I proposed that 12 hours at $100 an hour, converted into Livepeer for each video. And I gave them the deliverables and all these kind of things. And so mine was about $1,200 a video. And I did 3 of them, and it went very, very smoothly, and everyone was happy. So that's how I justified it for me. So
Okay. Did you get? Do they distribute Livepeer to pay the grant?
yes.
Okay, Livepeer token. All right.
Yeah.
And it's on L1.
Yes, it's on L1. And the other motivation for me was I also did it when it was Livepeer was about $7. So I wanted the upside potential of speculating on the coin anyway. So it worked out well for me. But the key was to just lay out, just don't be afraid to lay out some details of what you're worth, how much time it'll take, and let them decide whether, this is justified. I mean, you already know the people on the grant, so it's not like it's a difficult conversation. But just list it out to the point you're happy working on it, and then start from there, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I am also, I do foresee the need to partner with somebody for support related issues, because like I'm in the US East Coast time. Livepeer has orchestrators globally. Like if there's errors or things go down when I'm asleep, I do want to try and mitigate that and have someone else that could help in the other time zones. So that is one of the things I'm going to add there too. Like I'm going to need to pay someone else to help with this. And I still got to figure out who that person's going to be, but there's that as well.
Very cool. Has anyone ever applied for a grant in any other protocol or any other time in their life where they've had a good experience or a negative experience they'd like to share? All right. Well, there you go.
Guess not.
I guess yeah.
I will throw this out there though. If any of you here are on the other side of the globe and have some technical knowledge of just running a website, Python, let me know, because again, I am going to be trying to find someone that can help with support related items.
A person you might want to contact is Sundara. I haven't seen him in the community very much lately, but he's literally on the other side of the planet, and seems he's quite technical and understands his stuff quite a bit. So he might be worth reaching out to.
Okay. Hopefully there is no downtime. It's not a problem. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Very cool. Yeah, I would just, at the end of the day, like, people in this community and people running the grant, like, they're humans, right? Like, I find if you're reasonable, most people are very reasonable about their response and what could go, what grants could be funded. Like, at the end of the day, if you sit back and, like, I demand $1 million for my 1 hour of work, it's like, well, clearly you're just being greedy and you'll be dismissed. But a lot of people shortchange themselves, and then that's also not very helpful.
I do have a question I want to get. Oh, go ahead.
So I read almost all of the GitHub issues on the Livepeer grant program. So I think to your point is the most important thing is having an itemized list of things, like the cost to run the node, the cost in your time, development effort, like, what do you think the value add? Like, if you go read a bunch of them, I think they're rather easy to put together. You just gotta, the detail that Titan's referring to is where, they want to know phase 1 is setup and it's X amount of time and X amount of cost. Phase 2 is, getting orchestrators on board.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on getting orchestrators on board, right? Because at this point, it's like I've already done all the initial development. Like the solution now exists, and I wanted that to be the case because I wanted to make sure I could actually do this before I took any funds. But now I basically am going to them and saying, okay, here's what I've built. This is what I think it's worth. This is what I think it was worth to develop it and all that. What it's going to take to maintain it moving forward. But the actual product exists already. So I don't know what I would say as far as like milestones and stuff go. But I think onboarding other orchestrators is definitely an important piece. Can you guys foresee any reason why Orcs wouldn't join?
In terms of milestones, I would look at the activities you've done up to this point and work from the back, right? So like there was an initial setup, right? That's the first piece you did. And then that took you X amount of dollars and hours, right? In terms of servers and time and your effort. And then after that, you spent a series of hours actually working and troubleshooting with orchestrators.
I know I definitely hear you on that. And that I think does need to be recognized and considered in the value piece.
Yeah. I mean, it's always easier to retroactively go back because you can sit there and actually add up the hours, actually add up the costs, and itemize it. So you're actually in an easier position.
Phases too. Future phases are built in. You just said you need some support for around the clock, 24/7 support and troubleshooting. So you're going to need to have to plan and build out a team for that. So it's going to cost money. Just being able to be alerted and notified and monitor the system and be able to put the proper notifications in place and uptime. I think that's going to be a key factor, right? How long is it up and how long does it stay up? Because if it's crashing left, it might not be worth the investment. But if it's stable and folks are dependent on it, I think there's definitely a lot more to say about the future work you could add to it.
Very true.
Yeah, and then once you've bundled up all your costs, you create an itemized list of the costs, your time, and everything. Then you typically add a 20% uncertainty premium because you're getting paid in a token that's speculative, right? So that's another way of looking. Just remember that too, or at least that's what I would recommend, because it's very great to say, well, I'm worth $100 an hour. But if you're getting paid in stock options, well, you get paid more because you're taking a risk. Whereas if you're getting paid in fiat, there's more of a guarantee with that style of payment. So, yeah, just keep that in mind too.
But I think usually the grants are like, especially if they're like monthly or recurring, they just calculate based on the price when they actually send the tokens. So in theory, if you would just right then and there, like swap the token for USDC or something, not a stablecoin, you don't have that price risk.
Yeah, I guess that's also something else you're going to have to specify, is whether you want to be paid a fiat amount equivalent or just a standard token rate. Like for my community lead position, I just take a standard token rate, so that it's not based on fiat at all, and I take the risk of whether 1 month I get paid more or 1 month I get paid less. Right? It's just so yeah, it depends how you also want to word it in the grant.
Okay. Well, and let me get your thoughts on this too, because just kind of hedging my bets here, right? I didn't know if Livepeer is gonna support this or not, how long they're gonna want to subsidize. So like, if it turns out that eventually, it is a pay to use service, I wanted that functionality to exist, and it does. So like right now, if you go on the website and you are not an active orchestrator, like technically you could pay a monthly fee and use it. I wanted to get everybody's thoughts and opinions on that. If you think that's appropriate, or, because what I was thinking is if over time I could actually get people to pay to use this service, Livepeer would no longer need to subsidize it. Obviously, it's gonna take time for that to happen, though.
Well, that was
So, I
part
mean,
of the
does that?
original discussion, right? We were all thinking about chipping in money and running something, or each running a buddy node or something along those lines. So I still feel like I would be willing to pay. I mean, if it's more stable in comparison to Infura or Alchemy, why not help the local community?
Yeah. Oh, I'm just concerned, like, okay, is Livepeer going to look at it and say, well, hey, you've made this a pay-to-use service. Why would we subsidize you if you're going to charge people, other people to use it? Like, you're kind
Well,
of...
that's your fallback, right? Like that's if we already said, if they could subsidize, that's great. I think it helps the community. But if they come back and say, nah, we're not helping you, then okay, then we'll all do what we have to do to kick in. I think a lot of us have already voiced that support.
The way you have it right now is literally saying if you're an orchestrator, you get it for free. So anything anybody you're charging isn't a part of the community anyway. So you know what I mean? There's no reason for them to say that you're charging and getting money.
Well, the one issue with that is that and let's just say that you did start to a bunch of people started that weren't orchestrators that started using it and are paying for it. you're going to need more infrastructure for that. So I don't know if that starts to blur the line of how you charge, or how you're proposing what resources you need to Livepeer. So
did you say, Joey, that you weren't you were supporting non-orchestrator works?
I'm not currently, but I could, right? So I look at this as like Livepeer. Like, I don't expect to like advertise this and get people to pay for it. That was never really my plan. But if at some point in the future that works out and I actually could scale this as like a small business, I'd like that option. And obviously at that point I would not be asking Livepeer to subsidize anything. It's just right now, in order to keep it free for all of the orchestrators, that's what I'm asking them to subsidize. And if that changes over time, obviously I would not ask them for more funds. I'm not quite sure the best way to.
I mean, I can give you my 2 cents, and I'm just thinking about it right now because you're bringing that up. I think if you were going to do that, you'd almost want to keep that as a completely separate thing, where you like they just don't share resources, just from the grant perspective of it. I know it would cost more, but that's something that you would have to decide. I mean, is that what you really want to do? Is become an Arbitrum RPC provider? But I think when you start to mix them together, it gets a little trickier as far as the resources that you're going to need, and then how are you determining how much of which resources are being used for Livepeer versus paid customers, and I think it just gets a little muddy that way. Just my 2 cents on it. And I'm also just going off of this, like in the last since you just brought it up right now, but that's just kind of my feeling on it.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
the grants aren't specifically meant for people that are going to create a product that's always going to be free, right? Like there's people that are creating decentralized Twitch and some other stuff, so they're going to accept money. Like some of these are going to turn into a product. It's just they're funding the growth of that product or the development of that product.
The difference, in my opinion, on that is that that's using Livepeer's technology, and will like make Livepeer hopefully give broader use to Livepeer. Whereas this is really to support Livepeer.
Well, supports the infrastructure of the network.
Yes, and I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a little different than I think bringing in more new users. It's more, and I also, I mean, hopefully this is somewhat of a, in a sense, a temporary thing. I mean, if Nitro comes out and it's easy to run, I don't know how many people will also want to be using more of a centralized solution rather than relying on their own nodes. I mean,
that's true. If Nitro makes it easier for everyone to just run their own, then there's no need for this anymore. So.
But yeah, I mean, again, just my personal opinion. I think it gets a little muddy if you start opening it up to outside things using the same infrastructure. But that's just my 2 cents, and take it or leave it for what For
Livepeer's got to be running Geeth nodes and ARB nodes in their infrastructure as they're testing the product, building it, deploying it, running livepeer.com. So I'm sure they have a cost associated. It might be able to help offset some of their costs, but you're right, 2 separate things. But I would say shoot for what makes sense to you, and propose it in a way that makes sense based on what you have now and the time you've already spent and the cost you have, versus looking at future things that may or may not materialize, right?
Yep.
Let me ask you this.
I think. No, go ahead,
sorry,
Papa.
go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say, what? Oh, go ahead, Alex. I'll talk.
Oh no, I'll be quick. Joe, I think you have the value prop pretty well set in terms of this, just like, because we're obviously right now it's basically a federated tool that's only used by orchestrators, and I think that's a big value add both for Livepeer and then also for you, because that basically you can assume you won't have any like adversarial players trying to mess with your service. You have a pretty good sense of what load looks like, even say for like if like 50 to 100 people were using it. So, and then in the near term, while Nitro isn't out, like I think you should definitely apply for a grant, and then just present it as, in the near term, just a federated service, and then I wouldn't get too far into the weeds of trying to like articulate what you think it could be in the future. I think you should just worry about that when you get there, and in the near term, like harden, your service that's already obviously working quite well. And then maybe as a minor ask, you could ask for pointers from either the dev team or some people at Livepeer. I think that would be really productive. But yeah, as a federated service, there's a ton of value. Because also, I guess what I would say is, since I know some people who work at Infura, is that their like biggest headache is just dealing with the expense of egress bandwidth. And just people who are trying to screw with the service or are hooking it up and ingesting and not using it for anything really useful. So I think like the value you could see in just basically having a turnkey service that's already set up is just awesome. But definitely still, apply and then just keep it focused with kind of its current state as like a federated bit for orchestrators, and I think that would probably have a great result. But yeah.
And that honestly, that's what I was thinking. Like right now, the pay to play feature is turned on the website, but like if Livepeer is willing to subsidize it, I'll turn that off, right? And it just won't accept anybody else other than active orchestrators. And then if I were to find there's some type of demand outside of that, like great, I can spin up a different service. But like I hear what y'all are saying. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I think, and I'd lean into like your kind of, I guess, niche feature that was where you would, certify that you were an orchestrator, because I think the security and the knowing that like only that group is using this service, that I think that's pretty key.
The Livepeer CLI integration, to assign the message for the API key, that was pretty cool.
I agree with everything that Alex said and what Mike said too. I really think that I like it being that it's Livepeer only, and that it's all like that your API like checks to make sure that you're an orchestrator and all that stuff. I think that's a really just cool feature, and I think that would be appealing to Livepeer. And again, I also think that part of the issue that you got to figure Infura, Alchemy, these companies. I mean, that's what they do for that is their job, is to provide these services, and they're running into issues. So I'm concerned that the more it scales, the more problems you may run into, and what we're really looking for is a stable alternative to that. So, so that's why I just kind of like to small one.
Keep it simple.
And the question I had too, just I haven't really been keeping up with, like, look, what percentage of like your resources that you currently are renting are you using for like who's on the node now? Like, I mean, how close are you to full? I mean, would you need to? Do you foresee needing to beef stuff up soon, or is that only if a bunch more people join? Or
I mean, honestly, it's gonna be trial and error as more people join, because right now the resources are not being overused. Part of the reason is because I separated everything into different different dedicated servers for each piece, because before I was seeing like I can't have the Arbitrum node running on the same server as the web service. It just bogs down all the resources. But for some reason, when they're separate, they both barely use any resources. So I don't really know what the
but that's
reason was there. But yeah,
then it seems like definitely worth it. Obviously, what you did there, and you did it for a reason. But yeah, because I mean, like when when Knight set up that Arbitrum node that him and I kind of went in on. I don't know how many people we actually had using it, but I mean, I had, my 5 nodes plus, I don't know how many Knight had attached to it. And I don't know if anyone else was using it, but I mean, I was running it like with polling at 1. And I mean, I barely saw any usage on that thing at all. I mean, it was like just sitting like almost idle. So
yeah,
I was just kind of
It's not
curious.
very intensive.
I don't have any concerns about resource limits, just given the setup that I have now. I can scale it if I need to, like I can add another node if needed, but I don't.
It was more of just a curiosity thing, just because again, I have a small sample size, but I was amazed at how little resources it is. I mean, I guess I didn't expect it to use a whole lot, but I was like, wow, it really is not using anything for. It was super overkill what we had set up for.
Yeah, I mean, just for some like a reference, there's let's see here, there's about 10 active API keys in use, which that's split, one key could be being used on multiple orchestrators, right? But it's currently sitting at around 60 to 80 requests per second, and I'm not having any issues that I can see.
And are you load balancing that just weighted, like where, or did you set yourself as primary, then on backup, and Adrian is the third one, or is it just, are you spreading it across all three?
As of right now, it's not. There's a primary and there's a failover. Everything is going to the primary, and the reason for that is I wanted to, one, avoid the whole round robin effect of sending requests to a bunch of different nodes because it causes that log, noise. And second, like the proxy D router, like it's just communicating to the ARB node that's on that same server. As soon as you start going to a different server entirely, it just increases latency, right? So my idea is that it will always just use that one server unless there's an issue with that node and it goes down, then it will go to the secondary.
Okay.
And is the NVMe fast enough? I know you guys were talking about it possibly needing to be a higher grade SSD.
Well, I mean, my question, the whole reason I got into that question was I went to Arbitrum and I was like, is there anything I could do to reduce the amount of RAM that's currently running on this, because it keeps growing by the day, and then two, any way that I can get this thing to restart in under 3 hours, because right now it's a 3-hour restart. Like if you don't know what you're doing with your configuration and you launch it wrong, it's another 3 hours. That's kind of ridiculous. So I asked him that question. He was like, "Well, you got to get an NVMe," and I was like, "I do." And they're like, "Well, it has to be under 100 like U's or whatever the metric is." But the lowest I was able to get on like 4 different NVMe servers and my own NVMe's was like 175, 200. Like, and I can't imagine that. I mean, like, yeah, I get it's like 100% increase over what they want, but still pretty fast. I think that's like a fraction of a millisecond.
Yeah, so I
can
can
tell you
speak
this.
some of this. Sorry, Papa. It keeps happening.
No, go ahead.
I'll be quick. But so in my prior days as an electrical engineering student, I know some guys who work at Intel and like work on their Optane SSDs, which are actually like deliberately engineered to not have. The short of it is they focus less on raw throughput in reads and more on like latency for random reads. And I'm pretty sure that all these Arbitrum guys they're probably running this on Optane SSDs, because generally speaking, that's the only way with like commodity hardware you can buy as like not someone who runs a data center, how you start to hit those numbers, unless you're running it like all in RAM, in which case you'd need like terabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is you can like actually buy like the Optane 800p now, and that's what I tested with on one of my like workstations and was able to get into like the 90 range, and that was still pushing it. And what was curious was it actually didn't improve like the rebuild times that much. Like I think the quickest I saw was maybe like an hour and 50 minutes. So it was still pretty long.
Yeah.
And of course with Nitro, it'll be curious to see if any of this changes. But like it's sort of funny that like at this point, like the hardware requirements for running a Nitro Arbitrum node might like surpass what you would need to run like a Livepeer node, which is funny. But yeah.
Solana is like you got to get like 2 processors, and I'm like, dude, we're getting to the point where it's getting like, at least those, when you run them, you make money. You're just trying to process transactions. Hopefully, do you know when Nitro is supposed to be coming out? Like, has there been any like time frame or roadmap?
I don't know. All I've heard is the earliest would be in the next quarter, and it's always hard to know if those deadlines are accurate. But if anything, it's more incentive for Ftkuhnsman to submit a application for that grant. But
yeah,
like sooner rather than later. Well, I mean, I guess it depends, because even if it becomes easier to run your own node, that is still another just element that people might not want to have to deal with.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. I
if your
still feel
thing's
like there
stable,
might be
I mean,
some
it's still
usage.
easier. It's still easier. I mean, to connect to you, you know, to a community node than to run your own, especially if you're running multiple. You know, I guess we'll have to see what a Nitro
I mean,
node can do, but
even once you go into Nitro, we don't know if that's going to reduce because like the main reason I started doing this was just to get away from those error messages on Alchemy saying that I'm rate limited, try again in 5 minutes, and block polling intervals and all this other stuff, right? Once you go over to Nitro, there's no guarantee that that's actually going to go away because it's partially tied to how Livepeer is doing their, you know, how much they're querying on that network. So it could still be, you know, I'm sure it'll still be pretty useful. Plus the fact of the matter that like you don't have to worry about am I going to get like, you know, Titan just got you just hit your monthly cap or whatever. So it's like now you have to find another solution or upgrade or choose a different account. You don't have to really worry about that with this one. So it still has, you know, good utility, regardless whether or not it gets easier to run one.
Yeah, as far as the
Yeah.
startup goes, the multi-hour startup, I've been playing around with the ARB relay, trying to see if I can set up an ARB, a main node, and a relay in a different relay in separate data centers that I have running. And so far, I'm not sure if I have enough information to report anything yet, but it looks like in terms of load balancing, at least all blocks remain the same when you're running an ARB relay. So you could potentially load balance, which also means then you could have hot standbys waiting if you need to take a particular node or relay down. You could take a relay down, have it, you know, go down 3 hours later, come back up, but there's still other nodes in that relay that are running that you could always redirect your traffic to as long as they remain synced. So just some thoughts. I might trying to test all this stuff at the same time with limited time period. You know, you just get drowned in so many things.
I'm curious when you do that testing, if you do find a way to have that load balance, because like the other issue is if you lose L1 or L2 with Livepeer, you'll drop, right? You'll drop all your streams, and I'm
Right.
curious if you can have if that relay would then be fast enough to not be a cause of downtime.
Well, one thing I can tell you with certainty is that if you're using like NGINX, it's not, because NGINX, when you fail over or when you bring down the service, it drops all connections. So you pretty much have to start over anyway. So I think the NGINX doesn't work. I found that out early. So I switched over to Traffic, Traefik, and it keeps that stuff running real time when connections are coming in, so you don't actually drop anything. So anyway, it's just some more thought to the conversation here.
I would be curious to hear about other solutions because in just the limited documentation that they have on Off-Chain Labs website, like I couldn't really figure out how I would set up a relay if I wanted to. So if you're testing that and it's working, I would definitely consider that, because I've got 2 nodes. I would just run a relay that would load balance or between the 2 of them, and maybe that's a better solution. I don't know. I just found it was hard to just do a straight up round robin or load balance with because you need some type of health check. And what I found is that, let's say an ARB node goes down, while it's down and not responding, obviously the health check would fail. But when it comes back up, it still takes like, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes for it to get back in sync from all the blocks that it missed. And during that time, unless you've got a
There is a
complex health
flag.
check going.
Isn't there a flag inside of ARB? It's basically says like wait to open the RPC until you're fully synced. Or let me.
I think there is a setting. There is a setting to make sure it's not until it's 100% synced before listening.
Yeah, let me go. I'll take a look at it and see if I can find that.
Interesting. Okay, I need to turn that on. Right now, Proxy D is handling that, but
because I know that has like you can set a manual, just wait a certain period of time, but I don't know how many other it's got more options than that. Like you can just tell it like to wait an hour once coming back on, and
as part of the health check too, you could also like check the current block to see if it's the most recent, right?
So that was
Yeah.
my first approach, but I found that I needed a second, like a source of truth for what the highest block is. And for that, I'm like, I got to go to the Arbitrum public node or Arbiscan or Impura, Alchemy, something like that. Like I can't point to my node because it doesn't know what the highest block is. And I was actually having health checks fail because I wasn't getting responses on those queries. So that's why I kind of strayed away from that.
I mean, it's pretty simple. It's dash dash wait dash to dash catch dash up. Put in the event chat. So basically it says it'll wait to catch up to the chain before opening RPC.
Okay. Good to know. I need to turn that on.
Hopefully that means it's gonna, if you're waiting for like port activity, I don't like, how are you monitoring the health check? Is it using the health check flag and doing something with that? Because like the way that I was doing mine on Route 53 is like once the port opens, which will happen once the machine open, after it fully restarts, then it picks up, right? But again, yeah, you have that, if you use that flag, does it not open that RPC, that port until it's fully synced up to the node? How are you doing your health check? Like, what is it waiting on?
So right now and I think this is what ProxyD is doing correctly, is I have it set up where, so ProxyD is actually going to external services to see what is the current gas price and what is the current block height. And I've got that set up on a failover. So I've got it's going to Anchor, the Arbitrum Public IPC, 2 Alchemy ones, and an Impura one, right? So between all that, it's going to get a response. But from there, and I had to set that up so that it could cache responses. My assumption is that if it goes down and it's not getting a response that matches the current sync, it goes to the next node. I have not been able to accurately test that though. So just turning this flag on, I think, solves all my problems, or everybody's problems.
Yeah, for sure.
So FYI, I am going to turn that on, which is going to bring down the primary node for a period of time. It will fail over to the secondary, but I am curious to hear if anybody notices any errors as a result of the increased latency. So
okay,
bear that in mind, and let me know if you see any issues.
Cool. Well, that was great. Thank you so much for taking over there for a bit. That's amazing. I got my kid. She's throwing stuff at me.
I'll just add like one bad experience I had with my own ARB node. So I basically dropped all my streams for like 2.5 hours. And checking the logs, it was actually caused by like my query to the Arbitrum sequencer node. So that's basically the node that's ordering all the transactions and putting them in a block. And that was basically just not returning my read call, which caused the node to maybe like fail, and then it took 2.5 hours to restart. And reading on the Discord, I mean, there's basically no other solution to get the sequencer data. So basically, if that fails, and this is like a centralized service or API call that Arbitrum provides, so all the failovers. I mean, I guess if I was just really unlucky that maybe just this 1 second wasn't responding, and the next second it might respond. So if you have 2 or 3 nodes running, that could help. But that was like pretty bad experience.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I think I actually experienced the same thing with the community node because there was it was like Saturday night. There was a 20-minute period of time where it seemed like the same thing happened, but like both the primary and secondary nodes were still up and running, but they weren't providing the latest block data, and it seemed like it was trying to catch up is the only way I could figure, but I bet it was the same type of issue where the sequencer wasn't responding. And as soon as it did and it caught up, everything started working again. Nothing actually crashed, like the nodes didn't crash, but it did stop working for about 20 minutes. Like the API was not sending responses. So, I mean, what do we do about this single point of failure?
Yeah, and that's probably what happens with like, you know, when we're using Alchemy and stuff, when it goes down for.
But that's an Arbitrum problem, and I think they're pointing it out as a known problem, and it's a centralized issue they have no solution for yet, or at least there's some ideas pending, but there's no answer.
And I guess I can also throw in though that like the node that I was running off of did not go down during that time, because I remember I saw Vires posted about that in Discord, and I didn't have any downtime during that. So
was that off of ours?
Yeah, I was running everything off of ours. So then, yeah.
Did you see any errors in your Livepeer logs?
I wasn't like monitoring at the time. So I didn't go back and look for any errors in the ARB node, or I didn't notice anything in my on my Livepeer nodes. But I did not lose. I mean, my streams were just moved. There was no like drop off of any sort during that time. So I have to assume it was working. Whether there were some errors that came up, I don't know. But none of them were fatal or cause the streams to stop. And unfortunately, that node is no longer in existence, so I can't go back and look, or I would.
Well, I guess my big ask is for everybody that's on the community node is as soon as you see errors, report them in the channel so that I have a reference of time for when things are occurring, because that's my biggest problem right now. The logs are just super extensive, and when there's like a minor issue, it's really hard to parse back through and figure out what the issue was. So time is critical.
We'll do that.
Okay. Sorry, just left there for a sec. Cool. Well, any other comments on the ARB node, the community ARB node, or any other questions about that topic? I know it's a really big topic, which is really, really cool. And I'm glad to see all the progress towards it. Cool. Well, what I'll do is, Authority Null had a topic around the Livepeer outages. Authority, do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit and explain what you had saw and what your question is?
Yeah, sure. Everything's been running really smoothly since last week when we talked about the outages. I think the only person who can really speak on this is Alex, and I'm not even sure if you know anything about this, Alex, but I was hoping just for a little bit of clarification, like to hopefully understand what actually happened, because Yondon said it was a technical difficulty with the machine in that region, but we lost multiple ingest points, and I think at one point during one of the outages we had no ingest nodes and the whole platform was down. So I don't know if there's any input there.
Yeah, all I can say at this point is it was definitely a bit of a quirky error. We haven't done a post-mortem yet. So once we do that, which should be relatively soon now that everyone's back from Dev Connect. But once we do that, I could probably share more. But right now, I don't. Obviously, it's fixed. Like it's the hot fix was good. But in terms of specifically what happened, I don't have those details yet, and I think that's just because we haven't had enough eyes look at that, and just clearly understand what happened. Aside from the hotfix that's in place. So obviously, like I get that that's not probably satisfactory or all that helpful. But that's kind of where we are org-wise right now.
No, that's totally fine. I'll definitely look forward to reading the postmortem on that.
Awesome.
So when you say the platform is down, is that because Livepeer as a broadcaster is down? Livepeer.com?
My wording on that may not have been fantastic, but it was just the ingest nodes were all down, so nobody could receive streams and work.
But that's a function of Livepeer Inc. being the broadcaster, correct?
Yeah, that's an issue with only having one broadcaster at the moment, I believe.
So there's nothing stopping us from being broadcasters as well, right? But Livepeer Inc. wouldn't directly use them, or is it hard coded to just go to their broadcasters?
I don't actually know how that works from a technical standpoint.
I think
Cool, maybe.
I think they
Yeah,
have their own service, right? So if you use their service, you're going to use their ingest node. I'm guessing, but if you code using their platform of Livepeer, I think you register yourself as your own broadcaster, right? You don't use theirs. I mean, Ftkuhnsman, I think you broadcast, right? So
yeah, that's correct. Like if you're a broadcaster, like using the Livepeer network, not Livepeer Inc.'s CDN, like you are your own entity. If they go down, I can't see how that would take you down.
And you run a broadcaster right now?
No, I have one set up that I was using for testing. I don't actually broadcast anything, but I have tested with it. I wanted to test the different face value, like ticket payouts and stuff. So
testing your streams through your broadcaster would still trigger tickets being sent to your node, correct?
Yeah, I was basically paying myself. I would
Interesting.
set my orchestrator as the orchestrator to use. Yeah.
Cool. I might have to pick your brain on how to do that. I've been trying to set that up myself because I have this latest Mist server, and for whatever reason, I can't get that broadcaster taking the node the input correctly. So I don't know if you have any information or docs on that. It'd be helpful.
I really don't. I actually followed the how to set up a dev environment post on the forum. I don't remember who posted that, but
I can find it. Video DIC has a pretty good thing on
that's cool.
How to broadcast.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I must have missed that. Setting it up with like Rinkeby or.
You can do it either way, but yeah, his is at least the one, if you're talking about the same one for Ftkuhnsman, it does explain it through how to do it on Rinkeby.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That should help.
Yeah, so it won't cost too much to.
Yeah.
Or it won't cost
the only thing
around with it.
I did find out so you can use your same address as a broadcaster and an orchestrator, right? But the broadcaster and orchestrator can't be two processes running on the same machine for some reason. That would not work for me. But as long as they were on separate machines, it worked.
Huh, interesting. Cool, thank you.
Very cool. All right. Well, any other questions on the Livepeer outages or any other comments on that specifically?
I don't know. Well, this isn't really related to the Livepeer outages, but I am continuing to have failed test streams in EU, even though I'm getting normal streams. And I'm curious if anybody else is experiencing that.
And how do you identify these failed streams? Like what is it that tips you off that tells you that this isn't working? Because this is an area where I see a lot of streams come in and they drop. They're not there long. You know, I'm still trying to get my hands around. How do you identify that?
I mean, I'm querying the Vercel app. Like there's a URL you can query to get the last
where you can get
3 tests.
Yeah, I've seen that one. So that you're looking at that, seeing failures.
Yeah. Well, what happens is when I look at the Livepeer logs, I don't actually see any failures. What I see is, so usually you're supposed to see a sequence number from 0 to 14, right? That indicates it's a new stream, that was the test stream. I'll only see like the first sequence come through, or like I'll see like a test stream happened, it completely failed, And when I go to the logs, there just isn't any record. So the ingest node just never communicated with the orchestrator. But I get normal streams, so I don't know what that issue is.
Jeez, that sounds like a tough nut to crack there.
So I have a question. I'm going to move on to my topic just a little bit because I've been spending some time developing, Titan Node Pool and these kinds of things. And actually, I realized that now 2 of my pool transcoders are in this call: Authority Null and Papa Bear. And I didn't even know Authority was a transcoder in the pool. He was anonymous until he added his nickname, which was cool. I'm kind of curious as to get some feedback from you guys on like how stable it is, what your user experience is, and whether it would be a good idea to build like an opt-in to run in the background, like on system startup.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead first, Papa?
Well, as far as stability goes, rock solid. I mean, I don't know that I've ever had to restart for any type of issue that I don't think I've ever had to restart it. I mean, I may have restarted for other purposes, just maybe doing something else on the computer, but it has never crashed, especially with this new version. In fact, the old one I found to be stable. So stability is again rock solid. As far as having it start up automatically, I think that's a good feature to have, especially if it's an optional thing. It's not hard to start, but I think it makes sense to offer that. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I think the idea behind it is, I'm targeting basically, I decided I'm targeting gamers. I'm targeting people with gaming computers. And these people, like, if you can have them, when you first start the pool node, it says, hey, would you like to run this in the background on system startup? Like, you can just, write yes or whatever. And then what it could do is I haven't done any research into this. So if anyone has an idea where to point me to, like maybe a Python module or a Python script to have something install that does system startup stuff, whether that's even possible, I don't know. This was just an idea I had. And then what happens is people that are gamers can just like have this run in the background without them even knowing, right?
Yeah, so I did this manually because my machine, the one that I'm using to transcode for the pool, automatically restarted because Windows updates is amazing. So there's a folder that you can put shortcuts in on Windows, and it will automatically run whatever executable is in that folder on startup. I haven't
That still
tested this
works.
yet.
I don't know if that still works. They kind of changed
Does
some
it
of that
not?
stuff
Oh,
somewhat
well,
recently, where
shoot.
it used to be like where you could just pop stuff in there and it would just start up no problem. But now you have to go into like, I mean, at least I've had to go into like, what is it, task scheduler and create like I mean, it's not super hard to do, but it's not like, oh, you just pop it in the folder and it just starts up like it used to.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I
And
think a lot of it is for security reasons. Because it used to be that, or now it's pretty common that if you place packaged executables in there that aren't signed code, a lot of times Windows 11 will do this funny thing where it will just like remove it and not tell you. And it does that with a lot of other things too. But yeah, if it's a signed executable, which granted you shouldn't really have to do, you should be able to like have like start on startup as like an install step. But obviously there are a lot of caveats as to like how you're packaging this Titan Node.
There's a folder in program data. I use it on Windows 11 to start Grafana. You can put a shortcut in the folder pointing to an executable somewhere else on the disk, and it should start it fine.
You can get to that by doing, never mind. If you do shell and then : startup, it'll take you to that folder.
Yeah,
Well, if you
that's
do it
what
as
I
run,
use. But were you guys saying that doesn't work anymore? Is that a different
I
step
have
you guys are
shortcuts
talking about?
in mind.
Yeah, I'm
And it
using it at the
worked.
moment.
Oh, can you post that in
Alright, well
event
then.
chat? How you find that folder again?
Yeah, just looking for it now.
Awesome. So I guess there would be a pretty easy Python script to say like, hey, just add a file to this folder, and that would be it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if it works with everything, because I know that I have some like just like some video surveillance software that when I try to do that with, I mean, it'll start it up, it'll start it, but then you still need to click something like to say okay once it's it partially loads. So I don't know if that has to do with the being signed and all that and that kind of stuff, but I had to go in and create like a task scheduler type thing to make that work. So I don't know why. I used to be able to just stick things in that folder all the time, and it would just start up no problem, and then it stopped working after I thought it was after some update. And this is going back a while now too. So your mileage may vary, and it may depend on what exactly you're putting in there.
Yeah, the link that Ryan's posted, the shell startup, is a per user startup folder. The folder I've published is the system wide one that starts it for any user that's logging in. So you've got the choice if you want to run it as the current user, then you can use the shell startup one. But obviously, if you have multiple users on your PC and you log on, different people log in, then you could use the one I've posted, which would run the application for whichever user is currently logged in.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure someone's figured this out in Python. I'll have to like check the internet this was just a feature I just thought of the other night, and I thought, this would be, if it's a pretty easy implementation, like why wouldn't I offer that as like a nice little like, because I think the key to transcoding in Livepeer is like that you don't even know you're transcoding, and it just slowly accumulates over time. And people just have gaming PCs that have plenty of bandwidth, and NVIC chips barely use up any of the processing power of while you're gaming or anything, right? So or most people are just using Word anyway or something, so. But yeah, anyway, that was just an idea, and I've got to go here real shortly, but yeah, that was just kind of some feedback I was looking for, and just like, because just kind of building out this software is my first project, so I find it really interesting.
I've just posted a web link for somebody who's actually written this. There's how to auto run a Python script on Windows Startup.
Nice.
Let me know when the beta's ready, and I'll try it out for you.
Yeah, it's got the Python code in there by the looks of things.
And I just tested it on my Windows machine and rebooted, and that folder seems to work.
Seems to work, huh? Well, I don't know what the hell's going on with mine. I'll have to take a look at it. It's been a while.
It's just being Windows.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So anyone else have a topic they want to bring up, or just trying to fill
Yeah,
in
I
the
was
Python
curious. I wish Marco could comment on this directly, but who noticed the curious behavior of the Binance orchestrator? I think on like the April 29th or so.
I think maybe a few of us did, but Marco definitely looked into it more than anyone else I saw. But yeah, I can't really comment for him. I don't know if he's.
No worries. Yeah.
Hey,
Here
he is. Here he goes.
Hi everyone.
Hey.
Welcome.
The man. Hey.
So yeah, I mean, I looked at their test scores and they were pretty shit overall. I mean, they did pass their test, but they were above 2 seconds in transcode time. And like a few weeks back, they won a few tickets in a row. So I don't know what's going on.
That's what was crazy to me, because I remember they had set their price like a lot of the other sort of corporate orchestrators have, like their price was like ridiculously high, and then clearly they were failing on a lot of test streams, or maybe were running like some hilariously underpowered GPU trying to do transcoding, or maybe even like just CPU transcoding.
Yeah.
And I guess like my cursory take on this is they were probably just feeding themselves a ton of streams from like a broadcaster they were running, and then somehow maybe we're thinking that would be a way that they could improve their score to attract stake. I don't really know, but
well, I don't know if that's the case. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, no,
I keep
that's
talking
what I was
over.
going to say, because we can see which broadcaster sends out tickets, and so far I've only seen a few from Ftkuhnsman in February, but for the rest it's all from Livepeer. But also, I think I noticed that they have a pretty good latency, so maybe it's just having a good latency, and they get selected by the broadcaster, and then they get dropped after a while, maybe. But
I'm pretty sure almost all their stake came from. Remember, like a few months ago, it's like they went and like claimed a whole bunch of the like dead wallets from Merkle Mine.
Yeah.
So they claimed all that and then created their own orchestrator.
They've had one. They've had it up before that, didn't they?
Did they?
I'm pretty sure they did.
I think
I don't
maybe
know. I saw they pop out of nowhere.
Sorry, Alex. What'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
But, yeah, I mean, I think they had one or two latent orchestrators at one point. But yeah, no, Marco, I was also curious about that because I assume that we had some observability in terms of where streams were coming from.
Yeah, and if you are you familiar with Marco's page or tool? I don't know what you call it, but
yes, yeah, I definitely am.
It shows how many broadcasters there are in their address, and I know for the last month it was just Livepeer listed there, so that's how I know if they're not feeding themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, well, in that case, I guess the latency side makes sense. Maybe they
And then I don't know what their pixel price is, but if it's too high, they shouldn't be getting any streams because
their pixel price is 1.
Oh, then it's 1. Okay, so they've lowered it because at one point it was
it
really
must
high.
have been staked because I remember staked at one point had like a astronomically high pixel price.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's got to be pretty bad for the network overall if streams are sticking to Binance even for a little bit and they have some underpowered GPU going. Like the
My guess is it's probably CPU. My guess, that would be my guess.
Yeah, they have 1.1 way.
Like that stream must look awful for anybody trying to transcode.
And that even makes it stranger that they would win tickets because you're not going to get many tickets at that price. So I mean, like it really lowers your.
We're almost at half an Ethereum, so.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's why there's definitely some. That's why we'd like to know more about what's going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, this last month I was I was like actually getting like I was like double what my projected amount of wins would have been, which has obviously never happened for me before. So I don't want to I don't want to like go, hey, figure out what's going on and screw me, but I also, if something's not fair, something's not fair. So I'm still behind overall since I've started, but last month I just looked and I was like, yeah, I actually got about twice what my predicted amount was for the last month. So,
yeah, and ticket price yesterday went back to pre L2 levels, which was absolutely insane.
Ticket. Oh yeah, I'm wondering what caused that. That seemed.
There was a huge increase in the gas price, so I mean, it did kind of correspond with that.
Oh, that's true. I did think about that, but it's weird that it went to the exact same price, and then it did drop down to I saw 0.14 at one. I don't think there's been any tickets since then, but but yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery on how the pricing works. I don't think we've ever gotten a solid answer on that one yet. What how pricing works on L2 as far as ticket face value.
Yeah. Where are we at with the Livepeer Explorer redesign and redoing payment systems and stuff like that?
If you guys want to update on the dashboard, I can ask Adam about that directly because he owns that. So I can mark that down as something to get feedback for if you'd like.
Sure.
And then in terms of payments, Hunter and I are working on putting a very concise document together in terms of the payment and ticket flow, just kind of that whole selection process. And it's been interesting for me to get a much deeper technical understanding of that. So that should be available probably late next week at the earliest.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, I guess the only other thing that is sort of related to that is we're working on putting together a better system for escalating sort of high level questions or inquiries. So for things like ticket EV and whatnot, and then also more importantly for handling escalation and reporting of like outages or things that you guys might think are incident related. So there's kind of a tentative plan for that put together. I'm going to talk to Yondin and probably one other person on the engineering team about that process. And the plan for now is to put that up on the forum and then have you guys look at that and hopefully like shred it to pieces so we can get it built into something that you guys really like that can ideally provide better sort of response time and feedback in terms of some more pointy questions, like within the week and like when we're not on like a Discord call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, be on the lookout for that. And ideally, like I want to have it be something that ideally is better than like submit a ticket to Livepeer.org as like and then like click select a like how urgent it is. So ideally we can end up with something better than that. So it's like not just a benign like form submission. But the idea and like the best case scenario is that anything submitted there would be triaged probably within 24 hours and then have a solid response probably within 2 to 3 days, reasonably based on who has to review it and then if it's like a very engineering heavy question. But just to give you guys sort of a preview of what is in the pipeline in terms of direct interaction with like the Orchestrator clan.
I'm excited for that. I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
It's gotten so big, Livepeer, since even just since I've been here, where it used to be like, yeah, you could just ping someone on Discord and usually get an answer right away, and it's we've grown bigger than that now. So yeah, it would be nice to just have at least a centralized place where we know that like it's the right place to answer or ask something and not have it get lost. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's the plan.
Cool. Mike, you always have questions. Look at that. Perfect.
I was gonna say, man, look at you. You already anticipated my stuff too. I got to switch it up on you now, Papa Bear. You can't anticipate me like that.
I spend too much time on the forums not to know. Go ahead.
I'm on there a lot. That's right. Yeah. No, the whole push for broadcasters, like I'm still stunned that there's only one broadcaster. Like I don't understand. Is that just not a concern for Livepeer? Is that something that they're trying to make a push for, or is it just expanding livepeer.com is the focus? Like, why isn't there more about the broadcaster and getting more of those? Because that's an area where if there's growth in the broadcasters, then everybody on the orchestrator side benefits from that.
Yeah, if I can speak to that, like we recently released Catalyst, which is basically a modified version of Mist Server, which is able to act as a broadcaster. And right now it's still in development. It might not. I'm not sure what its current capabilities are, but the whole idea of Catalyst is going to be that anyone will be able to act as a broadcaster instead of Livepeer. So
yeah, I've installed Catalyst. I've been playing with it. I got some of the latest, docs from Quentin, and I've been trying to get it up and running. I see there's some activity in the development front. When I look at the stats that are being published, I don't see but one broadcaster. And as you heard them say, Ftkuhnsman had in February put a couple streams through, but for it to be 0 or 1 for Livepeer only, that just seems like it's a disservice for all of us. I think that's an area where I want to participate more, and I think getting more work into the whole platform is better. And again, I just don't know the right way. And I think some of the Catalyst stuff is great; it helps, but I'd just like to see. I didn't know if there was more messaging coming about in terms of roadmap of specifics about that.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the works. We are working together with some design partners to develop stuff specifically on Catalyst as well. And I think Meredith had the idea of like at the end of the year have a showcase of apps built on Livepeer as well, which should be using Catalyst then, and should be able to function as their own broadcaster. But I guess we'll have to wait for any official news to come.
Yeah, I saw the Livepeer in a box work that's going on in GitHub. Is that something that's going to be ready at some point?
Oh, that is actually the precursor to Catalyst.
Oh, so that was the proof of concept. Now it's all focused on Catalyst alone.
It was turned into Catalyst basically.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Any idea how that works as far as broadcasters needing to put up a payment or locking up reserves and stuff like that? Because I'm going to guess, and this is only obviously just a guess, that's been a big friction point for at least for smaller broadcasters to the amount that was required to broadcast on the network or was pretty steep. So I was just wondering if Marco, if you know anything about it.
Yeah,
Will this address that in any way?
So currently they have to put up the reserves as is, which is quite a lot. I don't know the exact amount. I asked Quentin as well, but he has to get back on me on that. But that's one of the other focuses is to get that down because they also want to expand the amount of orchestrators to above 100. And that's also not possible without reducing the reserve that broadcasters have to put up because that scales as the more of a orchestrator join the network. So they're working on that as well, but I'm not sure at what scale they're going to reduce it and when.
Right, but at least it's something that's being that they're aware of and trying to figure something out for it because it seems like to have to put up like just on the chance that like every orchestrator happens to win a ticket, it just seems the odds of that just seems so small that there's got to be some sort of at least maybe it's a percentage of the orchestrators all win a ticket, and even that is fairly unlikely to happen. So it seems like it's a little conservative, I guess.
I think all of that was implemented, if I understand, as part of the mathematics of the probability of micropayment.
It is, but still, I mean, what are the odds of you have sending out work to every orchestrator and them all winning a ticket and needing to cover that? I mean, seems pretty small or unlikely.
Oh yeah, I agree. I definitely think, and that's a challenge. That's definitely something I'll be interested to keep an eye on.
So I guess Yanden or Hunter, they would know how to give the best answer to this. I think if they ever join the water cooler again, or maybe if someone wants to reach out to them. Or
I can secure that. That's something I can do.
I was also curious about like I know they wanted to increase from the top 100 to more. Like, what's the reasoning behind the current push? Because like people that are sitting towards the bottom are probably sitting at like a 0.05 average stream. Like I can't imagine that like there's the demand where we're running out of capacity to need to increase that further. Just curious as to why there's a push for that.
I could make a guess, but obviously it's just a guess. I think it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing. It's where we sit now. Yes, most orchestrators are sitting at a fraction of their capacity, but on the other hand, hard to bring in big broadcasters if you don't have the resources to support them too. So I mean, I get both sides of it. Obviously, as an orchestrator, I would rather see that it not increase too fast because I want to still continue to get work. But I also understand that we have a limited capacity as it is now. So if you were to bring a big broadcaster online, then you run into issues. So again, it's that chicken and the egg thing where it's tough to balance it out. But I mean, I'm gonna guess that's what it is. If you have someone who wants to be able to broadcast tens of thousands of streams, I don't think we're set up to do that right now.
By the way, there is a forum post on this about a pre-proposal on modifying the orchestrator pool. I can link to it.
Was it?
maybe
I didn't catch that, so yeah, thanks.
there is a forum post which is about modifying the orchestrator pool. I can link to it maybe, if you want to comment on that.
Speaking of forum posts,
Prove my
there's a
cookie
lot
cutter.
of like dead or inaccurate information that's there from, you know, past years of development. Is there any plans to prune back some of that stuff? Because it's very hard. It can be noisy in terms of what's happening today versus what it used to be. So again, just something to think about overall, how to remove some of the dead information that's no longer relevant. In fact, may be a point of confusion when looking at new stuff.
Good point.
Yeah, I think the plan right now is to basically update the official documentation, because it would be pretty unreasonable for us even to have a technical writer to go back through and like start axing anything that is out of, because I mean with any open source project you can go find forum posts that are technically out of date. So I guess like my recommendation would be within the next 2 weeks or so, always default to like the official docs, and obviously the official docs at this point are a bit lacking. And something that like is a core focus of mine, probably next week, is going to be adding much more detail and depth to the official docs, which right now I will admit are pretty high level, and aren't helpful for like very in-depth things. But yeah,
All good. We're here to help too. I mean,
cool.
again,
No, of course. Well, and if you have
on
any
the community
suggestions
part
or
of it,
like,
right?
yeah, no, of course. And if there's anything that like you've gone to the forums that has been like overwhelmingly misleading, definitely let me know, because then we can be sure to like highlight that in the new docs, or somehow flag that, like, yeah, it used to be this way, now it's like this. So definitely open to
Sure.
that stuff.
Sure.
I see the orchestrator pool modification thread, and not only that, I actually have a half typed up response, so I definitely saw it in the past. I guess I should finish that.
All good. I've got to drop, guys, but if anyone has questions or suggestions, I guess for Hunter or anyone on the technical team, feel free to let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you guys on next Monday.
Thanks, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Likewise. All right.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Take care.
Do we have any last? What I'll do is, do we have any last topics or comments we'd like to cover? Otherwise, we can probably wrap it up 50 minutes early. Does anyone want to cover something that they haven't touched yet? Yeah, this was a really good chat. Yeah, we had a lot of people just listening, but yet we were still able to come up with a ton of content and questions and answers around the whole community. And I think that's what's so cool is even with few topics, we can really dive deep into them and get involved. So what I'll do is, with that being said, I'll probably go ahead and call it here. As we've been adding this for an hour and 40 minutes. I know. And it'll be great to see you guys next week. So I do appreciate you all coming. This is always super, super valuable, not only for the community, but the growth of the entire ecosystem. And yeah, I think it's great as always. And I just personally appreciate seeing you all here. And for the people that I did see in person at the conference, I can't wait to do another one. I think Shan and I might be planning one out in Vancouver, another small get-together with maybe not like a community summit style, but like, or maybe it will be. I don't really know, but anyway, we just had a thought about Vancouver being a cool place for people to come visit, and in North America. So with that being said, I will go ahead and close it off there. Appreciate you all coming, and we will see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.